Well, Brian, thanks very much for hosting me for the last few days here. Thanks for you and David and Carol and Kathy and all the kids giving me the time, showing me around. I mean, it could be argued that in many respects you have an absolutely idyllic life here.
Well, we certainly did have. It's now got the problem of gas, but yeah, we had what we believed to be an idyllic life here. And it's still, the reason we're still here is obviously we're fighting to keep this and we're fighting not to leave. So yeah, it was pretty ideal.
Yeah, well, for the early days, we just thought, we heard a bit of hoo-ha about the industry coming, the odd sign appeared, but we just thought, we've got a bad mortgage that eventually they'll come here, hopefully, and we'll get a couple of wells, we weren't against the industry. It was one of those things, you sort of thought, okay, we might do all right out of this industry. And within, I don't know, probably 6 months of them sneaking out of the scrub over the back, we started getting coated with all sorts of crap. And yeah, you just knew that you had to go the other way, but when you start making complaints to the industry and they sort of come around and have a look and say, oh, there's nothing to see here, you start to wonder. And then other people in town just said, well, John, you're complaining for no reason type thing. And then, like I say, it took a little while before we could no longer drink the water. And we knew, that we were in trouble then.
The way they get most people to sign up is by coming at you with a checkbook, and everyone needs money. John and I need money just as much as anybody else. I've been poor most of my married life. I'd rather be poor than take their dirty money. I was brought up in a good Catholic family, very wealthy family. But I'd rather be poor than take QGC's money, CSG money.
What's happening in this country, especially with the stuff here now? Not only this, but, mining and everything, what's going on. We're leaving nothing for children, and this, like I said, mate, before all this happened, like I grew up thinking that, the great Aussie way was looking after each other, mate, And as I got older, mate, it's full of shit, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up knowing that the farmers fed us, mate, and that's, whether it was beef or whether it was vegetables or whatever it was. But now, this whole stuff about this, it's just lining people's pockets.
Guys, yesterday, as we all know, this is just a pilot project, and so it's not a production thing, but they're talking 110 wells, up to 30 wells if it goes ahead in a few years' time. I don't want to be here then, because it probably will be something like you had at Bentley.
Yeah, really.
Well, I'm imagining that the protests would be a lot bigger if it gets to that stage.
You better hope so.
Well, I just don't want to be involved, in this capacity, you know what I mean? Like, if that happens, I don't want to be here for it, because I don't enjoy...
Damage being done now by coal seam gas is starting to become quite obvious now. We've got water bores that are basically being blown out of the ground. We've got rivers now that are bubbling, and we've got this massive amount of contamination that contaminated material that has to be disposed of on the ground and into the river systems and so forth. So, we're starting to show now the rest of the world what's going on.
Vegetable garden for 4 years. The first 4 years we come here, we basically never bought any produce out of town. All the fresh fruit and the fruit trees, they died. All the veg come out of the garden. Like we used to have a beautiful lawn around the front there with roses on it, and over I think about 3 nights of rain, it was dead, gone. Joe spent, I don't know, hundreds of hours building a garden here. When we come here, it basically looked like out the front there, like the road. And like she said, why would you go outside? Why would you do this anymore? You just curl up in your house, I suppose, and forget about it.
If the population at large starts to learn from our experience, right? So that the government says it's all going to be great and it's regulated. Well, we've been for a drive. You've been around the traps with us now, the Gasfield, and you can see there is no regulation. I mean, that's just words. That's spin, rubbish. And now that the evidence is becoming so obvious. I mean, a water bore that blows out water 6 feet into the air for 24 hours or more straight has been pressurised by contamination into the aquifer. Now, that same aquifer, I believe, was contaminated and damaged, and that started the gas bubbling into the Condamine River. I think these are all linked, and as they remove the water out of the coal seams, it is now just releasing the gas, and the gas is coming out of the ground here. The Southern Cross University from New South Wales, they drove a piece of sensitive equipment around, and they discovered that the gas is coming out of the ground. It's worse near their facilities, but it's actually coming out of the ground. So we are literally becoming poisoned by the gas through the ground on our own
I actually
property.
can't think of a more important decision that people need to reflect upon, and that is whether or not to permit an industry which has a proven track record of contamination of the water, of the soil, and of the air. It should be a no-brainer. It should be. We should be doing other things, but it seems, for the time being at least, this has to be our focus. We will defeat this industry. Of that, I'm in no doubt. The only issue is how much damage, how much contamination we permit before we shut it down. I just hope to God that people aren't watching this in some archive in 100 years' time, thinking there were people who knew. There were people who understood what this industry would do to the planet and the misery that it would create for future generations. And they'll be watching this as they fight water wars or worry about where they're going to get the next litre of water to be able to give to their children. If you think that's alarmist, buy a plane ticket and come out to southern Queensland, or go out to Pennsylvania, or to any of the shale plays in the US, and go talk to those people who haven't taken the money from the gas industry, and you will hear the same story everywhere. It started with just one well.